Hey guys, welcome back. This is part 2 of my late summer 2017 update, and I thought I'd show you something that I thought I'd start part 2 off with something that I got last year for supporting last year's Summer of Sonic convention, which was held in London. Although I couldn't go, I don't have a passport, I don't have the money, I don't have really the means of making it all the way to London, but I was still very pleased to, I could still support this convention, and they gave me a shirt for supporting last year's Summer of Sonic convention. I'm very pleased to have that. Now I know there is an American counterpart, but that's held in California, so it would be nice if it was held here in Chicago. Some other things I thought I'd show you are a couple books related to Sonic that I'm very, very proud to own. The Sonic Comic Encyclopedia from Archie Comics. Yes, I actually heard recently that Archie will be making no more Sonic comics, but there is another company that will be involved with that. There's a lot of really cool stuff. The bios of some of the characters in here. And this book right here, History of Sonic. If you're a big Sonic history buff like I am, this is a really good book to own. It tells you the story and history of Sonic's first 20 years. Yeah, I got this back in early 2013. This came out around the time Sonic celebrated his 20th anniversary. There was a special collector's edition, but I'm not fortunate enough to have that. But I still have the regular edition, which is very, very nice. So I'm very happy to have that. Now, I also got a ton of systems since shooting my last update video back in late February. Let's start off with this. Back in May 16th, I remember, was a very eventful day for me. I had jury duty that day. I also found out about this game, this one Sonic game that's going to be out later this year, if not sometime next year. The game was previously known as Project 2017, and back in March I found out that it was going to be called Sonic Forces. I'm like, alright. There was also going to be a new character added to the game, and everyone was left wondering who this character was going to be. Well, back on May 16th, today I had jury duty, as well as getting this system. I'll tell you about that in a moment. But I found out that this new character, I got to tell you, I remember I was watching a video on YouTube that day, May 16th, and it had a custom hero trailer. Not thinking too much of it, I watched the video, and then I remember reading the words, "Create your own custom character." When I read those words, my mouth dropped to the ground in excitement. I was very, very pleased. It's the first for the series where you get to make your own Sonic character to fight alongside Sonic and company, which is feeling very, very excited about that. And I remember within hours, if not minutes, Sonic Forces was given the nickname Sonic DeviantArt, as DeviantArt houses a lot of fan art and Sonic OC, such as the ones I showed you in my first part. Anyway, thought I'd tell you about this. In my last update, in one of my previous update videos, I mentioned that getting the SEGA SG-1000 was going to be proving very difficult. I said that I saw one listing, which was $800, another listing that was $1,500. Well, that's for the first version of the SG-1000. This is the second version. I managed to get this straight from Japan for just under $200 including shipping. So I got it, and was able to play Girls Garden on it. But I remember just getting the cartridge in and fitting properly without damaging the cartridge. It was very difficult to do. In addition, the same day I got this system, I read more about the SG-1000 just for kicks over at Wikipedia. And then I found out about the Mark III, and I was like, and the MyCard format. I was like, gosh, I wish I spent my money on that rather than the second system, rather than this version. But nonetheless, this is the first Japanese console I've ever owned. It's also the oldest console I've ever owned, whether I gotten rid of it or not. So, very pleased to have that. And then, just not too long later, after getting the SG-1000, I got a system that very, very few people know about. It's an incredibly rare system. I feel very lucky to get it for just $320. This is the JVC X'Eye. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are wondering, what is this system? It's a, chances are you probably heard of the SEGA CD, you probably heard of the Panasonic 3DO, you probably have heard of the ill-fated CDI, and I'm sure you probably may have even heard about the badly made and poorly marketed Atari Jaguar CD, but never of the JVC X'Eye. Well, does the JVC X'Eye have its own library of games? It's like, how did, does it have its own library? And the answer is no. This was a system that was licensed by SEGA to play Sega Genesis games and Sega CD games. Now, like I said, I got it for just under $320, which included the cost of shipping straight from Canada. And for me to get that for that kind of money feels pretty good, because when the system came out back in, I want to say 1994, it had a $500 price tag and only 10,000 units were sold. And you were thinking with those circumstances, you'd be thinking that I'd be getting it for, I'd probably spend thousands of dollars on this. Well, not at all. There is a Japanese version of the JVC X'Eye called the Victor Wonder Mega. JVC is actually the same company as Victor Entertainment. The Victor Wonder Mega, there are two versions of it. You have the M1 and the M2. The M2 was made into the JVC X'Eye. The Wonder Mega M1, on the other hand, was just an amazing system. It had a lot of really nice stuff, including a motorized CD tray, MIDI output, all this kinds of stuff. But when it was eventually released here in the U.S. as the JVC X'Eye. Now, just when I thought the Sega CDX was probably the best version of the Sega CD to own, well, I actually found out that the CDX was notorious for its laser failing, and I don't know if it can be easily repairable. But the reason why I got the JVC X'Eye was just a standby system in case my Sega CDX is to break down and for some reason just simply can't be repaired. The X'Eye is not only an easy system to repair, but modify as well. Another really cool thing, and it's really well built, well designed. And in addition, this is region-free when it comes to Sega Genesis / Sega Mega Drive games. It is, however, region-locked when it comes to Sega CD games. It cannot play Japanese or European Mega CD games, at least without modifications to the hardware. And like I just said, it's really a very easy system to modify. And here's another system I thought I'd show you guys. The Sega Master System 2. I got this at a play and trade a couple months ago. and the, you know, in case you're wondering, it's like, all right, well, how much did I get it for? Believe it or not, I got this for free. The guys over at Play and Trade showed this to me. Here's what happened. Its previous owner went to a Play and Trade and just said, I can't get this to work. The Play and Trade staff tried everything they could think of to make this work, and it just didn't work. And the owner said, well, I just want to get rid of it. If anyone wants it, they can have it, and who should get it, and who should come by the store but me. And they showed it to me, and I asked them, well, what's the price of this thing? And they said, not a cent. It's yours if you want. And I was looking at them like, really? Are you sure about that? And they said, yes, absolutely. So that was very nice of them to give me a really interesting piece of Sega history. Now, the Master System 2 can only play games on a cartridge. It can't play games on a card like the first version of the Master System can. Still, this is a very interesting piece of Sega history to own. And then, as I was telling you guys about the Mark III, you know, I wish I kind of got that. Well, there was a listing for a Mark III, and I remember buying that back on June 1st. The system back on June 1st. And I just remember how long it took for it just to get here. I bought it back on June 1st. The very next day, I get a message from eBay saying shipped, it's on its way. And then June 3rd, Origin Post is preparing shipment. And 25 days went by without any updates. Finally, back on June 28th, I finally get the notification. And well, even before that, just a couple of weeks after buying the system, it was still on its way, and I heard some news that worried me quite a bit. Just back in mid-June, there was a collision between a Philippine container ship and an American destroyer off the coast of Japan. And I learned, and the container ship was slightly damaged, and I even heard that no containers fell off the ship. And I was wondering whether or not that was true. I was like, gosh, it's like, did the container fall off the ship that no one knew about, and it just so happened to be the container that had my system in it. As the month went on, by the end of June, I was starting to lose hope that I was ever going to get it. But then finally on June 28th, I get a message saying that it's in New York City. And when I heard the news, I was very relieved. It's like, it's not at my house yet, but it's in New York City. It's back on solid ground. And then finally back on July 3rd, I remember it was a very tough day at work. I come home, and there it is. Came with a whole bunch of games too. Here's my copy of Girls Garden. It works very well. Putting in the cartridge slot in the Mark III, it's a lot better than the Mark II. It also plays the MyCard format. Any MyCard game will work on the Sega Mark III. So here it is, including Girls Garden. Now, I said in my last video that although this is not a Sonic game, it's a very important piece of Sonic history, and I actually put in an annotation why, but I'll let you guys know why in speech. It was the debut work of Yuji Naka, the man behind Sonic. So, I feel very pleased to have that. Now, I got this for $210. Got this Mark III system for $210, and the shipping was free. Came with a whole bunch of games, 7 games, one of which was on a cartridge. Here's Champion Pro Wrestling. And here's all the MyCard games that came with it. So let me take take a look at this. This is Super Tennis. This is Satellite 7. I remember it took me a while just for me to get this working on my Mark III. It took me a while. Here's Pit Pot. Looking at the artwork, I figured this was like similar to a Mario. I thought this was going to be similar to a Mario game, Super Mario Brothers game. It actually played more like a Zelda game, only not as exciting. And interestingly, this game came out before the first game in the Legend of Zelda series. This is Great Soccer. This is Dragon Wong. It's a platformer and fighter game. And considering that I have my Genesis with the power base converter, I can play every single game on the power base, every single game made for the Master System, with the exception of F-16 Fighting Falcon. Well, guess what? I don't need a Master System. I got the Japanese version of F-16 Fighting Falcon. I even bought a spare copy of F-16 Fighting Falcon as well, so I have 2 copies of that, which feels pretty good. So yeah, I don't need an actual Master System or a copy of the American version of F-16 Fighting Falcon. Both the American and Japanese versions are virtually the same. So I'm very, very pleased to have that. Here's all my stuff. Here's all my controllers, my accessories. Let's put these back in. And then I'm going to continue on with another 3-part. I was expecting this to make a 3-part anyway, so let me put this back in. Put everything in here. And then I will see you guys in part 3.